What's up, guys? In this video I'm going to talk about my new piece, Touch of Gold. It's basically an old antiquated machine that's used to keep a heart alive until you think you might need it. So here we are as we roll up into Lowbrow Land, which is my home studio. I come across this resin heart that I bought online, which was way bigger than I thought it was going to be. So I couldn't use it for the other thing it was for, but it will work great for this piece. So I can't use it being white. It's going to look rusty and crusty when it's done. So the first step to do that, you got to shoot it with flat black. I just used the Krylon Color Max. This was just some basic old can of paint that I had in the studio laying around. It's like $3 or $4. Nothing special here. All you want to do is just get a coat or two on it and get it going flat black. It looks glossy here, but as it dries it will go completely flat. Next up, I start rummaging through my junk trying to find a light that I want to use for this piece, and I remembered I had an old Singer sewing machine that I had taken apart, and it had a light on it that would be perfect for this piece. It's old, it's antiquated. The light still works. It has great styling. Looks kind of like an old locomotive part. So here I start breaking it down. The cord that was on it was too gone to be safe in anybody's home. So I'm going to replace the cord on this. I start taking it apart. Luckily nothing was rusted. Everything just came apart easy. Nothing was broken or cracked other than the cord. So I start breaking it down. All the connections on the inside looked really nice and clean. So last year sometime when I was on vacation in California, I stopped at this antique shop, and this guy had a new roll of old cloth wrapped cord that was perfect for this application. So I took it out, and I really love working with this stuff. It's period correct, and it's still functional. It's like brand new. So all I basically did was just wire it up and put it on this new light and put all the pieces together, and then tried it out, and everything worked perfect. I think one of my favorite things about this light, besides the styling of it, is this little switch that it comes with, so I could have it turned on and off independently of the actual piece being turned on and off. It's really cool. It has that real sharp snap when you turn it on and off. Yeah, I love it. So the next part of this piece and the actual housing for the machine that keeps the heart alive is this very cool old Rufino wine box. I feel like this box has been really well traveled. Rufino is from Tuscany. There's two brothers, Ilario and Leopoldo. They started their wine business in 1877. Somewhere between then and 1980, someone mailed this box, I'm assuming to Hawaii, to a company called Better Brands, which is a wine and spirits company out of Hawaii. And somehow or other this box ended back over here in this side of the United States in Texas, and I picked it up. I just couldn't turn it down. I knew it'd be great for an art piece. So yeah, I'm adding that to this. I mean, this thing has tons of charm, well traveled, fragile, really cool. So next up for this piece, it's back to the junk drawer. I'm over here looking for pieces that I can put in it. Old looking junk that just looks like it might have been used in an old machine or apparatus. And basically this is how I do it. Like, I mean, I don't know what I'm gonna do, how I'm gonna do it. I just start grabbing stuff, seeing what works, seeing what might fit together, what might have a cohesive look to it. And there's no rhyme or reason. I basically just go around and just throw a bunch of junk in my studio, knowing that one day I might be able to use that for my next piece. So next up, I find the base that's going to make the heart spin around. It's an old cigar box of 20 Coronas Maduros is whatever it's called, and that was pretty cool. I found an old light. I think it was a running light, like on an 18-wheeler on a trailer or something like that. It had an amber light cover on it, and it's very old and crusty. So like I fit that into this box and ended up putting a 110 flicker light bulb inside. So that's all fresh and new with an old look to it. So here you see me adding the new light into the old fixture to give it the vintage look. I'll end up hiding all the wiring for the whole piece in behind this box. Keep it nice and tidy. To give the piece an even older look, I found an old piece of rusted metal outside that I'm going to cut to fit and have this as the backbone of the piece. Make it look like it had a metal insert inside of it that just completely dilapidated over time. So here I'm going to use my right angle grinder with the metal cutting wheel on it. Definitely don't recommend doing this inside, but it was cool in my studio and very hot and humid outside, so we're just going to pretend like none of this ever happened. Be sure you're wearing your brand new Dickies shorts when you do this, so you can burn holes in them with all the sparks. Here I'm just using some self-tapping screws to drill through the metal and secure it. Grabbing the old 4-inch angle grinder once again and cutting the back of those screws off so they don't puncture anyone's hands and or wall. So once we got all that grinding done, it's time for a little more weathering. And nothing to me weathers better than good old fire. I got the Burns-O-Matic Map Gas automatic torch. You just press the button and boom, you got fire. Yeah, so I love the way this thing works. I mean, you just put it on there. The wood is so old. I mean, it just wants to catch on fire. I mean, you gotta be a little bit careful, but you know, the way I make my stuff, it's just gotta look a certain way, and I don't want to have to try to recreate this with chemicals or paint or whatever. I mean, I want it to look legit, you know, because authenticity, baby, you know. Yeah, when I'm creating something, especially something with a lot of detail, I really want everything. If you look in there and you see something that's burnt, I want it to actually be burnt. You know, if you see something that's rusty, for the most part, I want it to look really rusty, not done with paints or finishes. I mean, there is going to be a process on here that I show you how to make something look rusty with a certain chemical I use from a company. That stuff works really great because it does actually turn into real rust, and over time it continues to rust, so it is the real deal. So next up here, I'm going to install that Singer sewing machine light that we fixed earlier, so I can get it going and see what the heck I'm doing inside this box. It's a pretty straightforward operation here. We're just going to drill a couple of holes in the top of the shield and secure that to the top of the box with some screws. Nothing fancy, no special techniques, just a basic assembly technique to put it on there solid, make sure it's secure, safe, and aesthetically pleasing to the eye. Here I'm just getting ready to install some L brackets to hold the base for the heart in there and make sure everything's safe, secure, and doesn't move around too much. So now that all that stuff is installed and ready, waiting for the heart to go in, I start grabbing all kinds of old antique and vintage electronics that I've torn apart, and pieces that I've used over the years for different things. I have these just laying around, so I start putting things in, making it look like maybe at one time or other it did work. I did actually connect all these wires together to give it that look that it could possibly have been a working item at one time. You know, that's the best I could really do. Like, none of this other stuff is worth much as far as like actually working or doing anything, but it looks cool. Like, for aesthetics, it's great. I mean, this part here was out of an old solid state AM FM radio that I used part of that on the last piece I did. Then I had this circuit board left over. But look at that. I mean, look how cool that looks inside there. That was made to go in there. And I'm just going to use some self-tapping screws to fit that circuit board in through the back and saw them off like I did on the other piece. Yeah, all this stuff's going in there. So here's kind of the first look of how the heart's going to look once it's installed on its spinning apparatus. And you know, you get a kind of overall look of what we're working with as far as placement and space around it. What else needs to be added for symmetry. You know, I always have to have my pieces symmetrical in some way. Like, if they're heavy on one side and light on the other side, it just throws the whole thing off for me. It's got to be balanced. This is where I start to install the actual power cord that's going to be used to power this piece up. I want this to be as clean as possible because it's on the outside of the piece, so when you get it and you hang it on the wall, I don't want you to be distracted by some weird system of like cords running everywhere. I mean, it should look like it was made that way at the factory. This is where I start doing surgery on all these spaghettis, trying to get all these wires going together so they can all come out to one single power wire that's going out the bottom. So once all that wiring's out of the way and everything's connected and safe, we give it a test. Here we are with the main power switch on the side, which of course that powers on everything, and that switch on the overhead light to turn it on and off. So this is the stuff I use to get the rust achieved on the heart. Basically, this stuff here is a metallizer. It's like iron suspended in some sort of liquid, and basically you just paint it on. What you're doing is just you're making the outside of this thing into metal, and it's basically just iron, which is like the easiest metal to rust. So you make sure you get a good solid coat on the whole thing. Then you got to let that coat dry, and then you got to go back over when it's completely dry. You got to go back over with a wet coat, and then as that coat is wet, you grab the other part of the kit, which is the rusting solution, and you can paint it on with a paintbrush, but I use a spray tip applicator so I can like get even coverage. And anywhere that this metal paint lands, and you put that spray on it, it's gonna turn into rust. So if you want something to not rust, be sure you don't put it on there. And if you have something that's actually metal that's not coated, and you spray that stuff on there, it will rust that too. Something like screws or exposed metal, stuff like that. So if you don't want that to happen, you have to be very careful not to spray it on there. So this was about 5 minutes to 10 minutes after I had first applied the rusting solution. You see it starting to rust already. This was the next morning, and then this is a couple days later. Pretty much the finished product is going to continue to rust and you know, look more and more real, authentic, heavy metal, rusty heart as the time goes on. So yeah, I was really pleased with the outcome, the way it looked. I just think everything came together cohesively. So that's really about it for this piece. I hope you guys enjoyed checking out my process. I really enjoyed showing you some of the things I do. I hope to do more of these in the future. Before I go, I'll leave you with this. Guard your heart like it was made of gold, because at some point in your life, it's going to be the only thing you have left. And when that time comes, it'll be worth more than all the gold in the world. Take care, guys. Lowbrow, out.